What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for tuning into the channel. Before we get into this week's video, I want to tell you guys I'm doing a little giveaway. So if we get to 100 subscribers, I will give away this really sweet Donald Cerrone autographed photo. Check it out. It's pretty cool. It's authenticated by Pristine Auction, which is one of the most reputable authentication companies in the business. It's a really cool piece. So if we get to 100 subscribers on the channel, and all you got to do is like the video and make a comment saying that you subscribe to the channel, and then I'm going to do this for 1 month. And if we get past 100 subscribers, I'm going to pick one lucky subscriber. I'm going to reach out to you guys. I'm going to get your contact info, and I'm going to send you this really sweet picture. Check it out. It's pretty cool. And thank you guys for tuning in, and here comes this week's video. In today's episode, we're going to discuss all things Dana White. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay. If you've been living under a rock the past week, Dana White was caught on video by TMZ getting in a physical confrontation with his wife. She slapped him first. Dana White slapped her back. He slapped her maybe 1 or 2 other times before it was like broken up. But this all played out on TMZ. And I didn't want to make my video initially. I wanted to give it some time for this to play out, see what all the parties involved were doing, and then kind of formulate my opinion on the situation once all these things kind of played out. I guess I'm in a very similar camp of all this as Ariel Helwani is. I think the thing that I can say the most about this entire situation is it's disappointing. Someone with Dana White's power should be held accountable for his actions, and he's currently not being held accountable at all. He's been on record saying that there are many things you can come back from in life, but hitting a woman is not one of them. There have been previous UFC fighters who had domestic violence situations, and that would lead to their release. The most disappointing part about all this to me is the silence from the partner company Disney, which owns ESPN, which is a direct affiliate of the UFC, and the parent company Endeavor. Ari Emanuel's silence it's sad, but it also shows you the reality of this business. If you have power, if you're the Conor McGregors, if you're a Dana White, there's not much that you can do to get banished from the sport. I mean, John Jones has had multiple run-ins with the law, his own domestic violence issues, and he's still on the UFC roster. And it pretty much comes down to a business decision. I don't know if I'm necessarily in agreement that Dana White should be banned from the UFC, but to have absolutely zero repercussions it's sickening. It really is. I mean, I'm a firm believer that I'm in that belief that you should never hit a woman under any circumstance. I mean, there are different circumstances. Say, like, if Amanda Nunes was attacking me, I would defend myself, right? But Dana White's wife, maybe 100 pounds soaking wet, she was making no actual threat to him. He could have easily just held her until it was broken up. He didn't have to engage with that violent slap right off the bat. Like, she slapped him, and he didn't even think twice about it. If you watch the video, he immediately, bang, slapped her back. And I think he is truthful in the way he's talking. He's very remorseful. But at the same time, to have no consequences at all whatsoever it just doesn't set a good precedent for the company. And I'm leaning towards a direction where I feel like Dana White is holding the sport back. He's an amazing promoter. I mean, nobody can argue that. What he's turned the UFC into is nothing short of remarkable. But with a lot of these fighters, like the whole Bryce Mitchell situation, where he felt he had to take this fight because he was running out of money. And these fighters, between, having health care for the rest of their lives after they've, served X amount of fights for the UFC, that needs to be taken care of. I think the base fighter pay needs to be increased. I think that the show money and the win money, there should be just one flat fee that these fighters get. And if you want to give them a bonus for winning, by all means. But there's no reason that these lower level fighters should have to work another job or 2 other jobs in order to fulfill their family's needs. I mean, the UFC is a gigantic conglomerate company. They make billions of dollars every year. And for some of the fighters on their roster to be so financially burdened, it's a sad sight. And every other major sport, whether it's the NFL, Major League Baseball, or basketball, they have a union for a reason. So that the players that are putting their bodies on the line physically, like if you look at the NFL and the Damar Hamlin situation, every fighter, every football player, they put their lives on the line. And for the baseball players and basketball players, they put their physical bodies on. Like, if you play in the NBA or Major League Baseball for 10, 15 years, your body is just not going to be the same. I mean, there's no debating that. And that's why these unions help take care of these players. And I think Dana White, everyone is so scared of Dana White. You can see by the silence of everyone during this matter. It seemed like the only people that were coming out were people that were defending his actions. And I think people are scared of Dana White. And he's running this like he's a dictator. And it's holding the sport back. And I don't know how long he's going to be the president of the UFC. But until he leaves, fighter pay is going to be a serious issue in the UFC. But we have seen in some other leagues where fighter pay is starting to get a little bit better, but they don't have the reach that the UFC does. The UFC should want to give these people health care. If you fight, 10, 15 fights, whatever arbitrary number you come up with, that they should be taken care of because they're putting their lives on the line. And every time a fighter gets KO'd, you have no idea what's going to happen to their brain 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And for them to not be taken care of, it's shameful. And I think that's another word I can describe this whole situation. It's very shameful. I feel bad for a lot of these fighters. And I feel bad that they have to be represented by a guy who can do whatever he wants and shit's not going to happen to him. And then there's guys like Stephen A. Smith and all these people on ESPN that are saying like how good of a guy he was and how remorseful he is. But like if you break the law, say you hurt someone in a drunk driving accident or something, you made a choice to drink and drive, right? But there are consequences to those actions. And domestic violence is a serious issue all around the world. And this precedent that they're setting right now is that if you're John Jones, if you're Conor McGregor, if you're Dana White, I can do whatever the hell I want to do and get away with it. It's a sad state of affairs. It'll be really interesting to see how this plays out over the next few years because there's going to be an issue. Either it's going to be a fighter is involved in it or it happens to them. Like what if a fighter, hits their wife and then Dana White wants to ban them and kick them out of the UFC? I mean, the lawsuits are going to be everywhere. So it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out. Dana White's just going about business as normal. I guess if I'm him, I would be trying to do the same thing. I would be trying to wipe this under the rug. But he made a mistake. And for Endeavor to be silent, I think that's the most disappointed I am in this whole situation, is Endeavor silence. They didn't condemn his behavior. They didn't say anything. Same with Disney. Bob Iger just retook over the reins at Disney, and for him not to make a statement, or Ari Emanuel at Endeavor to make a statement, it just shows where their allegiances lie. They don't care about Dana White's wife. They don't care about domestic violence. They just care about their bottom line. And they're running a business, and I can totally understand that mindset. But at some point you're going to need to address it, and it needs to be addressed. They need to, make a tough decision and do what's right, and make a comment, make a statement, condemn this behavior. Anything is better than nothing. But on a more positive note, we got some fights this weekend. The UFC is back, and we have a great year of fights coming up. I can't wait to bring you guys more content, talk about all the fights this year in 2023, fights we should make, see what's going on between Sean Strickland got a new fight this weekend, so that should be really interesting. So I can't wait for this year. Thank you guys for tuning into the channel. If you made it this far, please subscribe, like the video, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.